Girl Scout Troop 5989 from Cedar Point and T. Clay Wood Elementary Schools. You'll be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone could please rise, and ladies, if you could step up here, lead us in the pledge, and then afterwards tell us your name, your grade, and where you go to school, okay? Mr. Iman waits for this moment. He's ready for you.
There you go.
Franny Steck, 4th grade, Cedar Point Elementary School.
Kylie Schurz, 4th grade, Cedar Point Elementary.
Sienna Goldring, 4th grade, Cedar Point Elementary.
Jessica Goodwin, 4th grade, T. Claywood Elementary.
Okay, we are moving on to the 12.01, approval of the public meeting agenda. A motion is in order.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Williams.
I move that the Prince William County School Board approve the public meeting agenda as recommended.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Ralston.
I second.
Thank you. Discussion? Those in favor of the motion, please signify yes by raising your right hand. Thank you. Those opposed? Thank you.
The vote is 7 yes, 1 no. Deutsch, motion passed.
On to consent. Do we have a motion? Anyone?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Williams.
I move that the Prince William County School Board approve the public meeting consent agenda as recommended.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Jessie.
I second.
Thank you. Discussion on consent. Those in favor of the Ms. Jessie?
Item 1306,
Okay.
I just needed a little bit of an explanation of that from the Memorandum of Understanding. Ms. Goss, could you just kind of help me understand that a little bit better? Thank you.
You're never safe, Ms. Goss. Consent can get you sometimes. You just never know.
Absolutely. So I'm actually going to ask Dr. Lacey to come up and speak about this memorandum of understanding.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is that better?
That's much better. Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Sawyers, members of the board, Dr. Waltz. This memorandum of understanding is between Prince William County Schools. This is our adult education program. So it's between Prince William County, our fiscal agent, who is Fairfax, and the other surrounding jurisdictions. And basically, it's to let us work and do alternative education, programs. I've had pneumonia, There we go. All right, that's better. So it allows us to do alternative education programs with Fairfax being the fiscal agent. So that's what and we do this agreement every year. Okay. So we're providing services to the community, to our adult community. We're providing EL services to our adult community. It's a grant that we write with them. So it allows us to write the grant.
What type of services? I'm just naive about
Sure.
this.
That's okay. They're EL services for our adult population so that they can learn English as a second language. Also, it's GED services that we provide to the community. We do citizenship preparation. Yeah, we do citizenship preparation with the grant also. So it's a huge grant that we write with the rest of the surrounding jurisdictions. And we're kind of if you will, Prince William really is a county within a county because we also oversee Manassas City and Manassas Park. Okay. Wonderful grant opportunity.
All right. Anything else? I'll briefly say on National Bike to School Day, I look forward to it every year, just like I do Walk to School, especially if it's my daughter's school, which is much, much closer than my son's middle school. But it is fun to bike up with all the kids in the street to go to school that day. So I do look forward to that day, and nice to see it back on consent. Any other additional comments? All right, with that, those in favor of the consent agenda, please signify yes by raising your right hand. Mr. Wilk, thank you. All right. Clicking around, I lost my, who was my original, it reset. Who was my original motion maker here? Ms. Williams, and who seconded it? Ms. Ralston? Okay, thank you very much. I apologize. Got it.
Vote is 8 yes, unanimous, motion passed.
Okay, we are moving on to citizens' comment time. We have about 18 or 16 speakers signed up. We'll see how many we can get through. Since nobody at the door, my hope is if everyone doesn't fully use their 3 minutes, maybe we can get through it a little faster. No, I'm just kidding. We'll feel free to use your entire 3 minutes. But I'm going to call everybody up here and see if we can, how much we can get through. So our first 10 speakers, if you want to come up to the front row in the reserved seating, are going to be Nancy Croteau, Kimberly Melman Orozco, Shannon Garrity, Liliana Guevara and Nancy Guevara for joint speakers, Anastasia Guevara, Jesse Lopez, Mike Bonfadini, and Gwen Edwards. Those are the first 10 listed on my sheet. Might be actually, and then Joel and Livingston will be the next speaker as well, since a couple of them were consolidated. As you come up, everyone will receive 3 minutes. I will run the timer here from my computer. It'll pop up on the screen above our heads. At 30 seconds, it'll turn yellow. That means it's time to wrap it up. And at 0 seconds, it'll turn red, and it means it's time to step aside. Proper decorum is asked of you at all times. Otherwise, you'll be asked to step aside. But that's usually not an issue, and I don't see that to be an issue with this crowd either. So we should be fine. So our first speaker is Nancy. Is it Croteau?
Close enough.
Good enough.
Close enough, yeah.
Nancy, your time begins.
Okay, I'm kind of nervous. But anyway, my name is Nancy Croteau. I'm the grandmother of a child at Graham Park Middle School. We're really happy with Mrs. Ramadan, and we're really happy with the school. But something did happen, and I wanted you to know about it. I had spoken to Mr. Bixby, I believe his name is, and anyway, let me get right to what happened. It was Black History Month. I was going on down there to donate some books to the library. I get in with my little pile of books. I go in, I stand in the library. Now, I'm sure that you're all aware that Graham Park is 73% minority, and of that, it's mostly black. But there are children of many colors there. Anyway, so the librarian was talking about a book, and she said, well, you know, we've got to talk about the feelings of Confederates. And these were not people who were slave owners, but they had real feelings, and they were just upholding Southern values. So I turned around and I said to the assistant librarian, what are we doing talking about Confederate values? And she said, for Black History Month. So I was really upset because I didn't think it was appropriate that for Black History Month, we should be talking about Confederate values. I go home, I see my grandson. I was very proud, actually, because my grandson, not only did he know the name of the book that was discussed, he knew the author, so good for your English program. And he said that last week they had discussed, and this was the same book, it turns out, a book called The Brotherhood, which is about the Ku Klux Klan, and how the Ku Klux Klan was not really a racist organization, but in fact it was kind of a social club, and people got together, and that the real reason that we'd had the Civil War was for states' rights, not for slavery. And this is what he got out of it. I don't think this is appropriate. It's certainly not appropriate for Black History Month. Now, if they want to have a white supremacist history month or a Southern white values history month and discuss about the feelings of these people, well, maybe that's appropriate. but it certainly isn't appropriate for my 12-year-old. And, the Ku Klux Klan, they killed people, they beat people, they raped people, they stole their possessions and separated their families. And racism is a big, big problem for us all over the world and for our species. And it is certainly a problem that those kids in Graham Park Middle School are going to have to grow up and face and decide what they're going to do when they're faced with various injustices. And I certainly think that Graham Park the librarian there could do better than be discussing the feelings of the Ku Klux Klan, and that was the progenitor. I'm getting close. I'll shut up. I just wanted you to know I had a very nice talk with Mr. Bixby, who was very helpful. I completely support Mrs. Ramadan, but I just wanted you guys to know that there are some real curriculum problems in this school.
Thank you.
And that we can do better.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kimberly Melman Orozco.
Hello again. This is my second time here, and you'll be seeing much more of me, I anticipate, in the future. First of all, I don't feel very well. I don't feel like being here. I have the flu. I've been up since 7. I've been working all day. I have 4 kids. I don't feel like being here, but one of the things that I know with having 4 children is if I don't advocate for them, nobody else will. So that's why I'm here, despite how I feel. Before I begin what I'm going to say, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my family. My family has lived in the state of Virginia, my mom's side of the family, for hundreds and hundreds of years. Her father's father's father went to Fairfax County Schools, her father's father, her, me. We finally moved out to Prince William County, and sorry if I'm boring any of you, but finally moved out to Prince William County when we purchased a house in Montclair. Lucky enough for us and for our family, we actually got our children into Mary G. Porter. We were so delighted with the administration there, with the teachers there. I could just tell you from my experience, they cared not only about every child that was excelling, which is really easy to do and seems like you highlight in these meetings, children that are excelling and doing amazing things with little assistance, but they cared about every single child there that needed help and that needed remediation and making sure that everybody had a quality education. You can really feel with the faculty and the administration as well. My daughter's experience with Forest Park has been, the polar opposite. Not only has there been non-response, there's been issues that come up that haven't been responded. I've asked for questions for information, for transparency, for accountability, non-response. To give you a few examples, I asked, because last time I was here, talked about the fairness and the way my daughter was being evaluated. On February 9th, asked for some information about how she was being evaluated. No response. I sent another email. February 14th, Mr. Wilkes said he was going to go physically to the school on February 17th if we didn't get an answer. I followed up with Mr. Wilkes on February 17th. Did you go to the school? Did we get an answer? No response. I followed up on February 18th to the entire school board, to the administration, to Dr. Waltz, and actually to an email to all of you. Not a single one of you dignified my email with a response. I can tell you right now, one of the things that I want to read before I run out of time is I looked up what a school board's supposed to do, and I found this. The school board is the critical public link to public schools. Whether elected or appointed, school board members serve their communities in several important ways. First and foremost, school boards look out for students. Education is not a line item on the school board's agenda. It is the only item. And of 2 of those critical important things are that school boards are the education watchdog for their communities, ensuring that students get the best education for the tax dollars spent. I don't feel that that's what's happening, and I don't feel that there's accountability for how my daughter was educated there, and there still isn't accountability for the questions I've asked that have remained unanswered. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Shannon Garrity. Shannon?
Shannon Garrity, my address is on file. Dr. Waltz, board. Recently, Lieutenant Governor Ralph Northam said, "We tell our kids you get out of school what you put into it, and we should apply the same outlook to how we fund our education system." And funding education includes salaries for teachers and staff. I see teachers as being an essential part of the education process. You just can't have successful kids without good teachers, nor can you have clubs, sports, tutoring, recommendations, emotional support, etc. without us. So how come when it's time to make the budget, we feel like the first thing to go is our step or a decent increase? Has the STEP just become a hiring tool, bait, to attract teachers, when in reality the STEP or increase has become secondary when you're finished funding everything else? As you know, Prince William County is one of the wealthiest counties in the country, and yet teacher salaries are dead last in a side-by-side comparison of every district in Northern Virginia, including Manassas. Prince William is dead last in instructional assistant and bus driver salaries. Prince William is dead last with the highest class sizes in the state. Prince William is also dead last for cost per pupil appropriation. Arlington spends $18,957 per student, and we, on the bottom, spend $10,981. Wow. We're not a struggling county. While it's true there are some cheapskates on the Board of County Supervisors, you are the ones with the power, not the PWCS, to give teachers a step increase each year. I realize educational funding comes from multiple sources, but you can make different choices. We too have families to take care of. Prices rise, but not our incomes. Our salaries are so far behind where they should be. In fact, our raises have become a lunchroom joke. It's true, educators start on a lower scale than other professions, but you are really just taking advantage now because you know we'll do our jobs, buy things for our students and our classrooms. We will work until we get it done, no matter what. Most teachers, in order to survive, have to supplement their income by working part-time. I have tutored, worked detention, Saturday school, administered the SAT and the ACT tests, sold tickets at games, worked retail, to name a few things. And I especially feel for our young teachers who are really struggling. You want to entice and retain good teachers, give a step or a decent raise. And although I won't sing, I will say RESPECT. That's what a step means to me. I love my job. I choose to teach, but make raises a priority. Decent raises. How can we be world class when our teachers are second class? Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Our next speaker is, we have a joint speaker, is Liliana Guevara and Nancy Guevara. I have it listed as you two together. Is that correct? Is that what you wanted to do?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I have it right in my notes here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Sawyers, members of the school board, and Dr. Waltz. My name is Nancy, and I graduated from the Alternative School New Directions, and this is my sister Lily.
I'm currently a senior at New Directions. Our address is on file.
Whenever we tell people that where we chose to go to school, they're always shocked. There seems to be this perception that an alternative school is a place where you store all the bad kids to forget about them. And however, I know, and I'm sure that you all know, that an alternative education is about providing students with what they don't get at other schools. One trend I had noticed amongst my classmates when I was still a student was they always expressed the sentiment that they felt silenced. They were ignored. And like they just didn't matter.
Now, I'm still in school, and I've heard classmates say they don't like the current options for their new school's name, and they really don't want the school named after someone.
Right, so we felt that is a great way for the students' voices to be heard, that would be allowed to allow them to choose the new school's name. Young people can be some of the most creative out there, so I don't doubt their competency to choose a suitable name. Plus, as my sister mentioned, they don't want the school to be named after a person. And many students at the Alt-Ed already view the school as a prison rather than a great opportunity. And naming the school after an individual they don't know or just without their input will only enforce that viewpoint.
It's a new school student named, and it'll help foster for the student's image rather than against the student's one. It's definitely a better mindset to have, and I can tell you firsthand that a good mindset is important to success.
In closing, I'd like to say that we'd be greatly appreciated if we could have the school board's support on this matter. I firmly believe that the students and teachers at the alternative schools are just as valuable as the teachers and students at other schools. And at times, we feel like we're overlooked or written off. And so we're really grateful for this opportunity to speak to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Anastasia Guevara.
Good evening, Chairman Sawyers, the school board, and Dr. Waltz. My name is Anastasia Guevara, and my address is on file. I'd like to start out by giving you a little background on my Prince William County students, Nancy and Lily, whom you just heard. We first heard something positive about New Directions when Nancy's psychologist at the time, whom I'd like to add is a well-respected and well-known doctor in our community, suggested that we check out New Directions for my daughter. Of course, I was shocked when he mentioned that, because how in the world would my daughter attend a school full of bad kids? But we took his suggestion, and my daughter graduated in 2014 from New Directions. That year, my younger daughter was an 8th grader. She was pursuing her options as to where she would like to continue her, complete her high school education. She went to her base school for a tour. She went to New Directions for a tour. She made her decision. We supported it wholeheartedly. She chose to continue and complete her education at New Directions. And she's going to graduate this year in 3 years of her education, rather than the traditional 4 years. Now, I relate this story because I want everyone to know that New Directions is not a school only for students that are kicked out, expelled, suspended, truant, so on and so forth. There's so many different students that attend there that the base school has not met their needs. And I've experienced that, of course, with my 2 children. I see it every day. Now, as we think about the school naming, I'd like to consider the term. When we hear the word alternative, immediately we think negative thoughts. We think about bad kids. We think about kids that have done things that are inappropriate or against the law. And we know that that's going to be a long-term impact on their lives. As a matter of fact, many of the parents are concerned when they know that alternative is going to be on their child's transcript. What is that going to look like to their child? It's a long-term effect. The kids are worried about it being on their transcript when they go to apply for a job, they go apply to colleges. It's going to be a long-term effect when we see that on their transcript. When a school sees that a kid has come from an alternative school, immediately they think they got kicked out for some reason. There's completely, totally negative connotation to the term alternative. Now, the fact is that many of the students at New Directions do go on to leave productive, educated, they're law-abiding citizens, and they make a permanent, and by us attaching the word alternative to their education, now we're leaving a permanent stigma of having attended an alternative school. Now, New Directions, New Dominion, and PACE are not alternative schools. They are non-traditional schools. They offer students a unique learning environment tailored to their needs, which in the end produces on-time graduates, and they go on to lead successful lives. Please allow the students to name their school. We would greatly appreciate it if you would take these thoughts into consideration when naming our school, my daughter's school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jesse Lopez.
Thank you. These are my sons, Nico and Benny, both students at Springwoods Elementary School. And we're here tonight to distill decades of educational research into 2 minutes with plastic cups. Just so you know, the spoiler alert is that learning and recess are best friends. So for the purpose of our demonstration, these cups are going to represent the lessons taught by a teacher in a classroom setting. Nico and Benny are going to represent 2 brains in those classrooms. And we can see as we hand out lessons, the brains are dealing with this information as it's coming in pretty well. And we're going to get to a point here where we're going to make one quick change. While my Benny brain stays in class, my Nico brain is going to go ahead and go to recess. Go ahead. So you can see that the Benny brain here is getting access to learning that the Nico brain doesn't have access to. But at this point, I want to show you something over here that is very exciting. During recess, a whole bunch of really complicated neurological processes have taken place. And the end result is that this brain is primed for learning. So when we send these brains back to class and we continue to provide more instruction, we can see a marked difference and how these brains are able to handle the information that's coming their way. And the point is this. Information we have from research in the 70s and in the early 80s is still being used today. And that tells us that the one most important factor in learning is instructional time. And I'm here to tell you that recess is not a time thief. Recess and learning are on the same team. They are best friends. Recess paves the way and allows learning that is more effective and more efficient to take place for all students. And this is why I, along with some other members of our community, come to you and ask, please help us get more recess, get more PE in PWC. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mike Bonfadini. Mike?
Good evening. My name is Mike Bonfadini. I didn't know we could bring props, otherwise I might have had a different presentation. But yes, sir. Members of the school board, Dr. Waltz, and Mr. Chairman, I thank you tonight for the opportunity to speak. I stand before you tonight not as a critic, but instead as a partner and a colleague. I have a profound respect for your personal sacrifices that each of you have made in your commitment to leadership within our community. In a society where it has become common to bash our leaders, I would like to thank you for your public service and open mind to hearing citizen and employee concerns. I have been a middle school teacher in Prince William County for 23 years. I currently teach life science at Bull Run Middle School. I was born and raised in Manassas. I attended Sully Elementary School, Stonewall Middle School, and graduated from Stonewall Jackson High School. I have resided in Prince William County for 33 years, and my entire professional career as an educator has been with this county. The school system gave me my first job, and it wrapped its arms around me and supported me through my battle with cancer over a decade ago. I am forever thankful for the compassion and will always take great pride in working for Prince William County Public Schools. Tonight, I would respectfully like to make one simple, heartfelt request to all school board members, educational leaders, and citizens of the community. Please commit to providing teachers and administrators their well-deserved salary step increase, not just for 2017, but for all future years as well. Over the last 6 years, any pay plan adjustments were just barely enough to cover increases in employee contributions for VRS and healthcare premiums. Take-home pay has remained almost stagnant for far too long. My salary is $10,000 less than my years of service to the county due to decisions in recent years to not award salary scale steps. Many teachers are having to take on second jobs. Making tough budget decisions is always very challenging, and I do not profess that I have all the answers. I can only surmise from past budget decisions that the vision of the current and past leaders has put the needs of children first. I applaud and support the mindset as well. However, the good intentions of not cutting programs, not reducing services, and building state-of-the-art facilities has left me and my colleagues with a sense of being undervalued. All of us here tonight are partners in a common goal of providing a world-class education for our students. We should all rejoice in our successes. We should all strive to correct our failures. And we should all bear the burden of tough budget decisions. School employees should no longer carry this burden alone. As the demands on our school system continue to grow and decisions on where to allocate funds increase in difficulty, I hope that we do not continue to lose sight of the school system's greatest asset, the classroom teacher. A statement of commitment from the school board to honor the steps in the advertised pay scale year in and year out would be a far greater investment than any material object the county could possibly purchase. The message would send a loud and clear message that we value the hard work of dedicated teachers.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Gwen Edwards. Gwen?
Good evening, Chairman Sawyers, school board members, and Dr. Walsh. My name is Gwen Edwards, and my address is on file. I am a technical support specialist and the PWA vice president. I am representing the education support professionals who deserve a step increase. There are hundreds of Prince William County school employees who can't be here tonight because they are working multiple jobs just to provide the basic needs, food, clothing, and shelter for their families. I know an instructional assistant who worked as a nanny to provide a basic living for her family. I know a custodian cleaning houses to supplement her salary to provide a living for her family. I know a cafeteria worker and a secretary, both have worked retail to provide more money for their families. I know a bookkeeper that left Prince William County Schools to make more money with less job responsibility to a neighboring county. According to the Wavy report, Prince William County instructional assistants' beginning salary is $14.67 an hour. A bus driver's beginning salary is $16.02 an hour. Both are less than our neighboring counties. Our ESPs can only provide basic needs, food, clothing, and shelter. They aren't eating out. They aren't going to the movies. They aren't taking family vacations. Their salary is providing the basic needs for their family to live check to check. The education support professionals of Prince William County Schools are deserving of a step increase because they are hardworking, dedicated employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joellen Livingston. Before you get going, we've saved a few minutes here. We can certainly get 2 more speakers in, and we have 14 total, so I'm not going to leave the other 2 hanging till the end of the meeting, so I think we can knock out everybody at once. So the remaining speakers after Joellen are Kathy Alford, Riley O'Casey, Katie Min, Victoria Kelsey, and Robert Eichhorn. Those are our remaining speakers. So, Ms. Livingston?
Oh, okay.
You're up.
Good evening, Chairman Sawyers and school board members, and Dr. Waltz and the PWCS staff. My name is Joellen Livingston. I am a teacher of 37 years, 22 in Prince William County, proud member of PWA, and my address is on file with Ms. Urban. And I'm glad to be back. Everyone in this room tonight is an advocate. The school board is elected by a constituency to be their advocates for all matters concerning their school division area. The staff at the KLC has chosen to be advocates in education by accepting and attending to their duties of their respective assignments, which impact all matters of school activities in Prince William County. The members of this audience have also chosen to be advocates for their schools, their communities, by their presence in the room tonight, whether they speak or not. I'm asking all of us to take the next step, advocate to activist. That's what I'm asking you to do tonight. It's time we take a stronger stand and we speak up loudly and we speak up often as one voice concerning the issues that are facing our Prince William education community. Activism requires courage from all of us. We have to be willing to organize, build consensus, work together around issues that we can carry the banner for. Tonight, I choose to carry my banner for our new employees who are starting their careers in Prince William, and they're planning their future, their families, home ownership, retirement. Now, I'm near the end. There are many of us that we see new people here that are not. They've been teaching 9, 10 years. They've had 3 steps. We know that, and they've chosen to stay here. They're still with us. We know it's not economically easy for a single teacher or classified employee to live in Northern Virginia area. It's time for us to do more to support those who actually are sticking it out. Virginia General Assembly passed a 2% increase, but the drawdown is not until February 2018. And the funding is not mandated for future raises. It can be used by school divisions to backfill a prior increase. It's my expectation that Prince William County Schools, as always, our advocate, will use the Virginia 2% to forward fund the next increase after this one. I'm also expecting and anticipating to see that the step increase for employees will come. The schools board has always proved itself to be an advocate for employee salaries and benefits where possible. I think possible is now. As an activist board, present the next budget to the BOCS firmly stating, fully and loudly, that full funding is a requirement and a duty and a commitment by them for our future. So I challenge you to join me to be an activist for that purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kathy Alford. Excuse me, Kathy Alford. Sorry,
That's fine.
apologize. You were up.
It's a weird name.
No, I choked up when I said it. I was very emotional about your talk,
About
apparently.
my-
So
oh, okay.
I apologize. I just wanted to
Not
re-say
about my
it. so.
name? Okay.
Kathy, thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Sawyers, school board members, and Dr. Waltz, and Mr. Erickson. And my name is Catherine Alford, and my address is on file. This thing's like right in my phone. My husband and I have lived in Prince William County for 18 years. I am here tonight to ask for a step increase in employee wages. I have been a public school teacher for a total of 16 years. 2 of those were in Georgia and Cobb County. Next year, I will be starting my 17th year of teaching. However, I will be paid as if I have only 13 years of experience. If the steps work the way one would expect, instead of making around, which sounds great, $62,000, I would make about $69,000. That is a big difference to my family. This impacts my family and me in 2 ways, financially and emotionally. Financially, it is a struggle to live in Northern Virginia and make ends meet. The cost of living continues to rise. My paycheck has not really risen that much. My paycheck is important to the day-to-day cost of family life. We have had to take out, me and my husband have had to take out loans to pay for 3 of our children's college education. Don't count my minutes for turning the page. We drive our cars well into 200,000 miles, and we live in an older home. Still, we cannot get ahead. Not getting a step increase year after year impacts our ability to stay out of debt. So in other words, we're in debt. My greatest disappointment is not earning my master's degree. We simply cannot afford it. Can't. Yes, there are programs, but that money runs out and cannot be relied upon. I cannot put my family further in debt, especially with 3 other children in college. Emotionally, the best reward an employer can give a hardworking employee is a raise. It is a matter of prioritizing on the employer's part. It is a morale booster for the employee. I've experienced exhaustion at work. I feel angry at times when my work piles up and I cannot get it all done. I feel disappointed in myself, and those feelings make me feel bad inside. I need to hear and feel that I am doing a good job. I need to be rewarded just like anyone else in any job. Earning a step increase makes me feel valued for the hard work and dedication I put into my first graders. A step increase is the appropriate way of thanking me and my fellow colleagues in the now and in retirement. Please consider paying me for a workload that goes well beyond my hours and well beyond my 13 steps.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Riley O'Casey. Riley.
Good evening, Chairman Sawyers, board members, and Dr. Waltz. My name is Riley O'Casey, and my address is on file. As the PWEA president, I represent thousands of employees who look to you for support. On Friday, the General Assembly passed the state spending plan that includes the state's share of a 2% raise for teachers. PWEA feels this is a positive first step. However, there is more to be done to close the salary gap and fill the teacher shortage, not only in Virginia, but in Prince William County. The average pay of teachers in Virginia is $7,200 below the national average, ranking us 30th in the nation. Teacher pay in Prince William County, on average, is $3,000 less than our neighboring counties. Education funding has become so bleak, our students receive fewer resources, and most educators use their own money to supplement these missing resources, while their pay has not kept pace with our neighboring local divisions. Prince William County will continue to lose the best and the brightest if we don't make our employees a priority. We will have difficulty attracting and retaining the best and the brightest if we do not have a competitive salary scale, which includes a consistent step increase. Our educators are professionals who give their heart and soul to their students on a daily basis. I urge our school division to look within the budget to find the funds for a step increase. I encourage this school board to vote for a budget that includes the step increase for employees. There are educators here tonight, I would ask that you please stand, that say enough is enough. Every employee in this division is dedicated to the students. It's time for you to show your dedication to us by supporting and voting for a step increase. Will you show your employees that they are a priority? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Casey. Our next speaker is Katie Min. Katie?
Good evening, Chairman Sawyers, board members, and Dr. Waltz. My name is Katie Min, and my address is on file. On December 10, 2015, the Every Student Succeeds Act replaced the No Child Left Behind. The policies of No Child Left Behind are outdated, as ESSA now provides the opportunity for input from students, parents, and teachers. ESSA ensures success for each and every student, regardless of their zip code. Where No Child Left Behind created a test and punish environment handed down by the federal level with no input from stakeholders close to students, ESSA emphasizes the state and local control over education policies and the importance of educator voice at all levels of decision making. No Child Left Behind took away the voices of educators. Now we have the opportunity to take the seat at the table. Prince William Education Associations wants to hear from all of whom have a stake in public education. Everyone from students, parents, educators, school division, school board, and others. Please save the date. On evening of Thursday, April 20th at Stonewall Jackson High School, every citizen of Prince William County is invited to a town hall hosted by PWEA. This town hall will allow you to provide input into how we could make Prince William County schools better. Please take advantage of this opportunity, and I look forward to seeing you on April 20th. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Victoria Kelsey. Victoria?
Good evening. Chairman Sawyer, school board members, and Dr. Waltz. My name is Victoria Kelsey, and my address is on file. I'm currently a biology teacher at Colgan High School, and clearly very nervous. I'm here tonight to speak for a colleague who, like me and many others, struggle. I'm sorry, I don't want to be the emotional one, but clearly that's my job tonight. This teacher could not be here tonight because she is currently working 4 jobs. She is new to our county. She moved from Florida with her family and asked me to read her statement tonight. Here it goes. I moved my entire family to Virginia from Florida. This has been a best choice for my career as well as for my family. Please keep in mind we made the move, paid for a move. My husband and I left our employment based upon what was posted on the Prince William County website in terms of what I would be paid. I thought I was going to make a generous salary increase compared to my life in Florida. But once I saw my first paycheck, this was not the case. After much higher taxes than I anticipated and all the other things that are coming out of my paycheck, I took a pay cut. I was able to accommodate and overcome. I applied for a part-time job and asked for positions in the school where additional income could be made. And thankfully, I was welcomed into them. Currently, I work 4 jobs, including my career teaching. I began looking around, talking to those in my building, and realized that I'm not the only one. And frankly, I was shocked. These people didn't make the move. They knew what their salaries would be, and still they stayed. And still they needed extra income. The amount of teachers having to work additional jobs to survive is soaring. U.S. News posted that 1 in 10 teachers requires, not just needs, but requires a second job. In 2010, so this is a little old, 41% of teachers were moonlighting at second jobs. It can only be thought that this number is much higher today. This should not be happening. Our salaries are diminishing while the cost of life is significantly increasing. Our job duties are increasing, and the time spent outside of the classroom day is increasing. Who are we? Who are we as educators? Who are we as people? We are the heroes here for the young Americans. We are the heroes here for the young America. We teach children to become great leaders, intellectuals, athletes, and create the future for our up-and-coming nation. So why are our salaries listed at 69% of the world average when compared to other college-educated workers? Yet we work more hours than many of those of the same education levels. We constantly have to qualify to teach. We pay for those tests, courses, and add to our credentials. We spend our summer time taking classes to make ourselves better as teachers. We get our certificates, and at times we pay for professional development and AP training. Our hotels, our gas, and our time away from our own families are not compensated.
Thank you. And our last speaker is Robert Eichhorn. Mr. Eichhorn.
Good evening, Chairman Sawyers, members of the board, Dr. Waltz. My name is Robert L. Eichhorn. I'm the principal of New Directions Alternative Education Center and the future non-traditional school scheduled to open in August of 2018. My address is on file with the clerk, Ms. Urban. I'm here this evening to provide a voice for the students of New Directions, New Dominion, and Pace East in reference to the naming of our new campus being built on Aiden Road in Manassas. As you know, our students at each center were polled and subsequently voted on 3 names which exemplified the shared vision of combining 3 non-traditional schools into one comprehensive campus. This also included the opportunity to provide write-in votes. Round to the nearest percent, the majority of students selected Independence with 38%, followed by Liberty at 34%, and subsequently Unity at 29%. I'm not here this evening to advocate for a particular name. Rather, I'm here to advocate for a process of ensuring our students' voices carry the same, and in my estimation, more weight than the adults charged to serve them, care for them, and support them. After all, this is their school. Several hundred students participated in the voting process, shared their thoughts in their respective schools with one another and staff, and in addition wrote letters in support of their particular recommendations to the attention of the planning office. They participated actively and effectively to share with you their recommendations for the name of our new non-traditional school. I use the term non-traditional with purpose, as this is the accepted terminology in the field of education for schools that target personalized, student-centered, and diverse learning opportunities for students in need of something outside of the traditional educational environment. Therefore, after your deliberations and review of potential names based on community input you have received, I'd respectfully request you consider the name selection followed by non-traditional school. The rationale is this will now effectively be a K-12 school given the population of students served, programs offered, and learning opportunities provided to our students throughout the school division, and the identifier should exemplify what the school is, a true non-traditional education opportunity. In closing, I would like to thank Mr. Klein and his staff, and in particular Mr. Beavers, for facilitating the opportunity for stakeholders to voice recommendations in a public forum this week, and appreciate the consideration of each of you regarding the voice of our students in my supplementary comments. In closing, enjoy your evening. And on behalf of the school communities of New Directions, New Dominion, and Pace East, we greatly appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eichhorn. All right. No. Moving on to item 15.01, the middle school best practices. Mr. Bixby, your name yet appears, and you arise. There you are. Mr. Bixby.
Good evening, Chairman Sawyers, members of the school board, and Dr. Waltz. In keeping with our ongoing commitment and sharing best practices that are taking place in our world-class school division. This evening, the principal and staff members from Saunders Middle School will be sharing their journey in developing a welcoming, positive, and engaging school culture. Saunders' work in this area will be showcased at the ASCD Empower 17 conference later this month in Anaheim, California. Saunders Middle School is a shining example of what is possible when a principal and staff take a collaborative approach to problem solving and community engagement. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Sheila Huckstein, the proud principal of Saunders Middle School.
Good evening, Chairman Sawyers and members of our Prince William County School Board and Dr. Waltz. You introduced me. I am the proud principal of Saunders Middle School, and I so appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight to speak to you, including myself, my wonderful team, Mr. Joe Murgo, one of my esteemed assistant principals, Laura Gazda, Dave O'Neill, Brenda Bush, Nett Jordan, incredible teachers from Saunders Middle School, Jenna Hardy, works in our counseling department, Maria Aguilera, secretary and parent liaison, and Michelle Kite, CTE specialist and former teacher at Saunders Middle School. I, along with this incredible team, present to you the gracious host.
Good evening. It started off in the summertime. Laura and Michelle and myself wrote a proposal for ASCD to present, and it got kicked up by ASCD to be a school showcase. And what that is Saunders was selected to be one of 5 schools in the United States to have an exhibit and showcase artifacts on how we host parents, students, teachers, staff members, and how we self-promote. The exhibits are going to be an hour long, and 4 of the 5 schools are in California, so we feel really fortunate and grateful that we have been selected to do this out in California and share our best practices with educators from around the country. The above presentation up there is the successful schools, what ASCD is describing a successful school is, and it's an exhibit hall, and those are the times that we will be presenting. So if anybody's in the area in California around those dates, please come check us out. The next slide is, once we got bumped up to a successful school showcase, we realized that the 3 of us can't do this without every stakeholder at Saunders Middle School. So with Dr. Huckstein's leadership and guidance, we crafted teachers and staff members and parents and a student as to go out there and represent, so we can truly represent what we do at Saunders Middle School to be a gracious host. So we have our gracious leader, Dr. Huckstein, going out with us. We have our support staff and our interpreter, who is instrumental with our Hispanic community and our Spanish-speaking parents coming out. We have a parent. We have a special education teacher for that population, a counselor, a lead mentor coach that helps us with our new teachers, and a lead teacher. Most importantly, though, we have a student going with us so he can share about his experiences at Saunders Middle School. I'm going to turn it over now to my co-authors, and they are going to continue the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. If we look at this next slide, this is essentially what we started with. So Michelle and I are currently at James Madison University studying schools leadership and administration, and we were taking our school community class last fall. Dr. Huckstein was actually our professor, and we were going over our school community plan, and we just kept thinking about it, and we looked at each other and we're like, this is just being the best host. And from there, the discussion started, and really about being a gracious host. And within that, what we realized is that we already see this in our school. We have this wonderful model, so we started coming up with that. And then from there, we went down to ASCD last year with Mr. Bixby's wonderful support, and we realized that there were so many things that we could offer and we could contribute to. And so we decided to then offer up our presentation, which then turned into a successful school showcase. And then from there,
and really just to define what the gracious host is you're thinking about all your community members and you're treating them as you would someone entering your home. So you anticipate their needs and you look for everything that they might need while they're with you or when your students go home, and you try and plan for that so that they feel welcomed and happy to be there and they don't need anything that you could possibly provide them. So in this, we had the first brainstorm was who are our community members? And we first started with the word stakeholders, which is lovely, but because we're gracious hosts, this is members of our school community, so that's why we named it a little bit differently. And we'd start with the internal groups, which are the people who participate in the daily academic things that go on, the program at the school, so of course our students and administrators and staff, those sort of people. But then we extend beyond that to our community members who may participate in the school because they have a vested interest or because they have an association that meets there or something like that. So the external community members can be vast depending on what happens at your school on a regular basis. From there, because we're good educators to begin, we had our learning targets, which we developed into our goals. And what we're looking to provide at the ASCD conference is a framework, an actionable plan that teachers can take back to their districts and tailor to their community, which will be a little bit different, and implement this plan and be gracious hosts in their own right. So within the goals, we're looking at fostering family and community partnerships. A big aspect is clear communication, and that is everything going back and forth from the school about policies, achievements, regulations, just anything. The more clear communication, the better things are going to be for everyone involved. And then also reducing barriers to community involvement. A lot of times people feel that they are not welcomed into all the daily aspects of the school and that it's an academic setting and they may not be comfortable there, but just welcoming all community members. And then promoting enhanced awareness and involvement for the community.
At Saunders Middle School, it's a we thing, and we're a family, and that's what we want to contribute and we want to include with who we are. So in these goals, we want to anticipate needs as well as really listen to all of our community members to support our kids, our community, our staff, our faculty, et cetera, so that we're all coming together. So with that, we're excited to be here. We're excited to go out to California to represent both Prince William County Schools and our school board. We're so grateful to Mr. Bixby for his constant support and encouragement. And we want to thank you all for including us here tonight and being our gracious host.
Thank you very much. I'll open it up to discussion. I'll start with Mr. Deutsch first, but I think we have a school board policy. The chairman gets to go on all trips. Is that, I'm asking, is that, just asking. We'll look it up. Mr. Deutsch, this is your school, so I'll give you the first opportunity if you'd like, or.
I'll just say thank you so much for all that y'all are doing in our community and for your work putting this together. And thank you for being able to represent us in California and really the example and model that's going to be for the rest of the country. So thank you so much for all that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Williams.
If the young gentleman wouldn't mind, I'd like to, if you're not embarrassed or anything, because I am putting you on the spot, I'm sorry.
I told him this might happen.
Yeah, I just want to hear from his perspective what he thinks about this. And just from your perspective as a middle school student, what do you think about this?
Well, first off, I'd like to say thank you for having me here, and I'm very excited to do this.
He said, what was the question? I just wanted to hear in your words what you think about this whole experience, that's all.
Well, I'm excited, and I'm happy to represent what it's like to be a student at Saunders.
Miss Jessie.
I just want to thank you for sharing this whole concept of community involvement. And congratulations. ASCD is big. And a trip to California, wow, it's not like going to Woodbridge. So I want to thank you. Could you give me an example of some of your community partnerships, maybe a couple examples of what it really looks like? I can see the general feeling here. And I know you don't have a lot of time here, but can you give us a couple of examples of some of the things that you are doing?
So a couple of the things that we're doing, we have worked in partnership with George Mason University on a research project for developing, was that funny? No, it's all three of us. Oh, okay, sorry, yes. There you go. That was a good thing to start off with, right? Okay, so we've done both with the Project Excel from George Mason University, and then along with our students in our special populations working to design computer programs to help supplement the 8th grade physical science curriculum, and working in partnership with George Mason. We also do an incredible career day. This has been something of a staple at Saunders Middle School, and it's actually coming up in March 31st. Anybody is invited to attend that. We're looking for presenters, but where we have over 125 business community partnership people in the building walking our 8th graders through what the process is like to apply for a job and how they might ready themselves for a career once they leave high school. So those are just a couple of the examples.
Thank you very much, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Ms. Jessie. Ms. Ralston.
I understand the good work that you're doing, but I thought maybe I should just give you a tip. And the tip is, you're not going to want to come back. You're going to want to stay there. So we don't worry about winter clothes. We just have year-round. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's a big thing to me. I read that and I said, wow, we are doing good things here.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ralston. Anyone else? Mr. Brown.
I want to congratulate all of you. This is an incredible opportunity. Thank you for doing this, and I look forward to the great things you'll do in California to represent not only Saunders, but Prince William County Schools. I love slide 4. I love all the words on it, the kindness, the courtesy, the generosity, compassion, and that last line about community members seeing Saunders as more than school, but rather a gathering place at the center of the community. Those are great words, and that definitely is something that all of our schools in Prince William County and I guess the country as well should be striving to do. So if you get some great ideas of what other schools are doing around the country, please bring those back and incorporate them into your school, as I know you will, and then share with the rest of the county so we can hear about those great things. So congratulations, good luck, and I wish you the best.
Thank you.
Yes. Ms. Williams.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo my congratulations. I was picking on the young men earlier because I'm always a fan of listening to what our young students have to say, and we often don't ask, even if it's 2 words. I really appreciate you coming up and sharing. Thank you so much. It's a big endeavor to be a student and to travel with all of these adults. And I'm sure you have more than your fair share of please don't do and can you stand and do that. So I just wanted to personally say thank you, and I wanted to congratulate the team. I hope that as you continue to grow in your success that you will share, undoubtedly I know you will, with our other middle schools within the county on how they maybe could modify and expand on your program so that, in the future, maybe it's not just Saunders going. We have more than our fair share of Prince William going, as we already do to other activities like NSBA and things like that. So I love to see that our tradition is growing and that we're continuing to expand on our wonderful tradition in Prince William County. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Anyone else? Thank you very much. As Yogi Berra would say, it's like deja vu all over again. School naming, alternative education school. Mr. Klein.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Waltz, we're back. This evening we come forward that in accordance with policy 854 and regulation 854-1, the school naming committee held an input meeting this past week to receive suggestions for naming of the school, for non-traditional school under construction across the way at the Independent Hill site. Naming recommendations were coming forward. Mr. Dave Beavers, Supervisor Planning and Financial Services for the Office of Facility Services, will provide a presentation of the overall process and the results of the public meeting. Mr. Beavers.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Chairman Sawyers, members of the school board, Dr. Waltz. I think it was Dave Javu that you were trying to, Dave. Yes. Thank you. Good evening. I'm with the Office of Facility Services, and I have the pleasure of facilitating the school naming process for the Alternative Education School Naming Committee, and otherwise known as the non-traditional school. So in terms of tonight's agenda, we'll briefly walk through the process that we've used to develop naming recommendations and give you the opportunity to discuss any portion of the naming suggestions or the process that you'd like. First, our naming process is guided by Policy 854 and Regulation 854-1, which were slightly revised this past year. This is the fourth time that we've used this new process to name a school. Policy 854 calls for the creation of a naming committee, but also notes that the final approval of the school facility name rests with the entirety of the school board. Now, Regulation 854-1 tells us that the naming committee will be comprised of the chairman of the school board, Mr. Sawyers, the school board member in whose district the unnamed facility is located, in this case, Mr. Wilk, congratulations, the Potomac District, and any school board member in whose district is overlapped by the attendance area for the unnamed facility. With this facility, the entire county is the attendance area. Therefore, all school board members are on the naming committee. So congratulations. It's important to note that the committee is charged, there we go. It's important to note the committee is charged to consider these naming criteria: geographic elements, historical items, names of living or deceased persons who have made significant service contributions. Now, the most recent revision to the regulation added language that says selection preference will be given to those individuals who've made significant contributions to the field of education, especially within Prince William County. The naming committee is charged with holding a community input meeting to solicit recommendations and suggestions from the public. Now, we held our meeting this past Monday night, February 27th, at Colgan High School, and we had an attendance of about 15 folks who came out and shared comments and suggestions with us. In terms of a timeline, tonight is the presentation of the naming recommendations for information only. And at the March 15th meeting, you will take action on this naming item. Okay, here's the fun portion of the program where I show you pictures of what the alternative education site looks like. You can see on the left that we've cleared the site and construction is just getting underway. Everything's going as planned, and the school will open in 2018. The school is located at 14,550 Aden Road on the Independent Hill Complex. Technically, this is, again, within the Potomac District. And on the right of the slide, you'll see a site plan of the completed school. Now, here's an architectural rendering of the finished school. You can see 3 stories. It's an entirely new design to house the programs that were previously separate as New Dominion, New Directions, and Pace East. Okay, that concludes my presentation. At this time, you're welcome to proceed with any discussion relative to the naming of the school. I will offer that we've received a number of suggestions in person and via email, and I'll go over those with you now. Independence, as Mr. Eichhorn accounted for us, liberty and unity. We also have Excelsior, Liberty Walk, New Waves, Excellence Alternative Academy, the Renaissance School, Beacon, and we will be providing you also with the minutes from the meeting that we had on Monday night for your review. But please note that I've been informed that the preferred school type, as Mr. Eichhorn suggested, is non-traditional rather than the alternative that we're using. So we're certainly willing to listen to the right nomenclature for this school. That concludes my presentation. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Discussion. Mr. Deutsch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So first of all, my apologies for not making the meeting on Monday. I had another meeting that I had to be at, and I sadly can't clone myself. and this is actually, I guess, on the opposite side of the road from my district. So Justin and I are buddies on this one. So I just wanted to I just wanted to say to Bob Eichhorn and the students there a huge thank you for the survey that they did of their students, and having that input I think is very important, as you know they're the soul of this school, and I would definitely support naming something in the vein of what they've brought forward in recognition of the work and the input that they put forward there. And I think there's a lot of rationale behind naming it a non-traditional school. I think that's could possibly be very helpful as we rename the school, give it a fresh start, and really re-emphasize what it is that we're all about there. And I hope that will continue to help things there.
Thank you, Mr. Deutsch. Ms. Jessie, then Ms. Williams.
I've had the opportunity to visit New Directions, and just so very impressed. In fact, Mr. Eichhorn said that we had an hour, and I found myself staying almost the entire day. And I attend every graduation that they have. I think that what they do for those kids, how they make them feel very, very important. Just the fact that they have their graduation at the Hilton Performing Arts in that setting says something about who they are. I know it's a little bit different. I sat in with the group for the naming, the community input session, and they are very committed to growing kids and developing students. And I was really pleased to see that they had the idea or concept of involving students in the actual naming process, especially for this particular school, because as they said to me, independence is what the goal that they have. The goal is for these kids to be independent and be able to access the market. And I've seen some of the things that they've done, and I've looked at some of the performance data, and some of these kids really exceed the performance of kids in our regular schools. And so my applause to them, and I thank the parents who came out the other Monday night to support this naming process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jessie. Ms. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First I want to say thank you to Mr. Eichhorn, I always want to make you a doctor, because I just think you do enough that someone should have given you that title by now, and probably the rest of your staff. I unfortunately missed the public hearing, but I did send you a notice to let you know, and I received your response, which is what you presented tonight from the students, and I'm very grateful for that. I have been to a graduation at New Directions since becoming a board member. I have had family members graduate from New Directions. I am always so impressed when I see your students. Like Ms. Jessie, I went out my first time to visit the school and thought I was going to be there for the usual 20-minute tour and didn't want to leave. I think either I had to kick myself out or you kicked me out. And it's just always very exciting because, like our citizen comment time speaker said, it's not a school just for bad children. I don't even know, we should just stop saying that altogether, because it's a school for all kids, and it really serves a multitude of purposes for our youth in Prince William County. And it's one of my favorite places, honestly. I am so excited that the students were given a voice for this, because I really believe that this is one school that we have that is really the ownership and the onus is on the students. These are kids who make it to class with no bus, students who choose intentionally to go to this school to graduate early because their family, there's no buses to New Directions now, for those who don't know. Some of these students spend 2 hours a day back and forth just to go to class. 4, as I see the parent in front of me. I know because my niece spent 4 on the bus. So I understand, and these are the students that we constantly say are bad kids, but that's a lot of commitment every day to go back and forth to class. So I am a big supporter in allowing the students or proponent of having the students name the building that they're going into. They earn it, they deserve it, they take ownership of their education, and they're proud of it. And the staff that is at New Directions, I cannot speak more highly of the support that you give our students and providing them with an education that meets their needs. It's just I'm very excited by this. So I am in agreement with the students' voice and their recommendations, and that's how I stand. And thank you again for all the work that you do at New Directions. I see several of you in the back row, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. The Honorable Mr. Wilk from the Potomac District.
I will support Mr. Eichhorn's recommendation and listen also to the voice of the students from that building. Thank you.
Everyone notice how concise Mr. Wilk was? Thank you. Anyone else? No? We good? All right. Thank you. Mr. Klein, just hanging out right by the podium. 1602, Mr. Klein.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Waltz, as we go through the budget process each and every year, one of the many discussions that we often entertain as we go through that process is the question of what are the staffing levels within the central office, and how does that compare relative to measures of efficiency, effectiveness? How do they compare to staffing levels for other jurisdictions? And as much as in several of the preceding years, staff themselves went out to do some comparative studies. Last year, the board commissioned a study of staffing of the central office to look at what the relative levels of that staffing are, and effectively looking at the discussion relative to the topic that, well, the central office is overstaffed, the central office is understaffed, and to try to bring forth an independent analysis, an independent review of the central office for consideration by the school board as we go forward this year and in future years. This evening, Mr. J.W. Rust from the firm of Alvarez and Marsal will provide a presentation of that staffing study. Mr. Rust?
Thank you very much. Chairman Sawyer, board members, Superintendent Waltz, thank you for having me here tonight. I'm J.W. Rust. I'm a senior director from Alvarez and Marsal. Alvarez and Marsal, A&M, is a global consulting firm. In my time at A&M, I've led a number of engagements that are really efficiency-based recommendations. Led work within Louisiana, within Kansas, and I'm currently conducting a statewide review of all 82 school districts within the state of South Carolina. We just completed and are presenting here the results of the central office staffing study that we did for Prince William County. So there's me. So the bottom line on the study, as we compared Prince William across all of the regional school districts, we found that Prince William is understaffed in the central office by approximately 82 staff members relative to the peer levels within other benchmark divisions. As part of our study, we set out to identify, the appropriate peer set from size, operating budget, student population characteristics, and within the local region. So Loudoun, Howard County, Anne Arundel were selected as similar large division peers. Fairfax County, Prince George's, and Montgomery were used as the very large division peers. And Alexandria was used as a medium-sized division peer, and Manassas City and Manassas Park City were used as the small division peers. In order to compare across the spectrum that we have here, we utilize what's known as a per 10,000 student basis. So it will allow us to compare the very, very large to the very, very small in the same scale. To that end, we found that Prince William was understaffed by about 9.3 full-time equivalent, FTE, per 10,000 students relative to its peer division. Now we did this by peer division, and we found that 3 of the departments had had more staff than peer divisions. 5 of the departments were at or near peer benchmarks, so that was within half an FTE. And there were 8 divisions that actually had fewer or to significantly fewer staff than peer divisions. As part of the process, it wasn't just simply a head count. We also took a look at responsibilities of these staff. So as you can imagine, some of the answers to are you over or understaffed become nuanced. We'll talk about some of the nuances tonight. And we'll talk about the differences in responsibility that Prince William have, some of the additional things that they do above and beyond some of the other neighboring school districts. So to give you a view at a high level across each of the peer divisions, starting with Prince William at 96.1 FTE, that's full-time equivalent, staff per 10,000. This compares to the average across the peer divisions of 105.4 FTE. The bottom line here is, in our opinion, there would be a greater need to hire rather than to cut central office staff. So let's get into the divisions so you can understand the range of what we're looking at here. So starting from the left with transportation and facilities, I would like to point both of those out. One thing that we found when digging into the responsibilities and to the way that other school divisions operate is that several of the school divisions actually outsource the function of transportation. So when we're comparing, 60, 70 staff to, 4 or 5 staff that oversee the outsourced function, it can create an apples to oranges. We are still dealing with, all of those numbers get rolled up. So it sort of gets lost in the wash, but it's worth pointing out. We went back and did the calculation again for both facilities and transportation by removing the ones who outsource. In doing so, transportation is actually understaffed, and facilities is only over by about 1 FTE, but it's important to note that they also have other responsibilities that other school divisions don't. All of the boundary analysis that is undertaken in facilities is different than some of the other peer comparisons. Similarly, the Office of Risk Management, so these would make up the 3 divisions that are considered overstaffed compared to peer benchmarks, has a number of other responsibilities. Going out to do the comparisons of the risk management function, very often what you find is they are just providing the security services in schools, whereas in Prince William, they have responsibilities for claims investigation, for insurance management, and all of the investigative duties that go along both with claims and with staffing. So it helps explain why there might be more staff in that division. The next 5 that you see there are all at peer benchmark divisions. It's worth noting, and we'll talk a little bit about what the specific responsibilities are. Many of these divisions actually have much more responsibility than peer divisions. So you have people that are doing more with the same amount of staff, and that's important from an efficiency standpoint. The final, so focus on the final 8 divisions. One thing that we noted was that Prince William is more decentralized from a central office staffing function. And so where that comes into particular play is in the functions of central office academics. So where you have professional learning, English language learner, student services, special education, student learning, there's a conscious decision that's been made to push some of those staff out into the schools, and what ends up happening is you have a much lower staffing level compared to your peer divisions. There are also some other central office functions, human resources, benefits, financial services, and IT that we just noted had fewer staff. Very similar responsibilities, but they just had less to significantly fewer staff. In particular, looking at the Office of Human Resources and Financial Services, you're talking about 1.5 to 3 full-time equivalent, which again, that's per 10,000. So those numbers get multiplied times about 8.8 to give you a sense of the total number of staff that Prince William is under. and I can always come back to this slide, but so we've talked about the ones that are over and under. One thing I'd like to focus on is the responsibilities. It's important when taking a look at these functions, not to simply just do the head count, but to really take a look at all of the things that that the divisions are doing and the departments are doing. Excuse me. Wanted to call out some of the examples. With the Office of Communication, there are division-wide robotics programs, the statewide VSTAR, Virginia Star program, computer refurbishment program, as well as the Prince William TV and PWCS network. Those are significant responsibilities. It's not like you have one or two staff that are doing that, and it really represents some of the additional work that's happening out there. When we look into efficiencies, the school, the Office of School Food and Nutrition is a great example. They have similar number of staff, but substantially higher school lunch participation. Almost double some of the other similar divisions. And what that basically is saying, they're able to deliver a lot more for the same level of staffing. The Office of Accountability is another important one to recognize, as well as the Office of Professional Learning. As Prince William is looking to drive student performance, a lot of that comes through the Office of Accountability. We'll talk about some of the recommendations and what we were seeing in the benchmark assessments, but in particular within the Office of Accountability here, the state reporting, additional data analysis, the data warehousing components against most of the peer districts, those were additional functions that were maintained. Office of Professional Learning is another example with the leadership mentor programs as well as the PLC support function. In terms of our recommendations, we look at that 9.3 FTE or the 82 full-time equivalent staff that are lower relative to peer benchmarks. We think that Prince William should consider adding additional central office staff within the Office of Human Resources, the Office of Benefits, Financial Services, and the Office of IT. The Prince William should also take a look as you work overtime through the allocations and the budget allocations. Some consideration should be given towards weighting towards some of the central office academic functions, would help drive consistency in the process that goes down through the schools. There are two other things that we wanted to call. There are a number of recommendations that we had made and some of the smaller ones. There are some bigger recommendations that we also wanted to talk through with you. One of them is with regards to the organizational structure. Starting from a top down, we'll look at span of control within each of the offices and each of the functions, starting with the superintendent. And as we looked across all of the different peer benchmarks, there are a number of different operating models, a number of different organizational structures. One of the structures that had more balance than the other structures was used heavily by some of the Maryland state schools, where they identified a 3-deputy structure. And what that would do is would provide balance around the 3 major functions. So school oversight, the central office academics, and operations. And so those 3 deputies, along with the general counsel and other staff that report to the superintendent, would add a balance and allow some focus some additional focus on, and a good example is, school floods. And, Rita is having to focus in on change from your academic focus to we got to deal with this operational issue. So separating those functions out can help people focus on the day-to-day business and provide the necessary leadership to drive student performance. One of the other things that we saw that was a very unique, it was distanced in terms of the peer benchmarks, was Howard County's investment in accountability. It's a relatively new, in sort of school district years. They have really expanded that office. They were almost twice the size of other peer districts. You're starting to see some of the impact on performance and accountability that comes from that. I just think it's important to monitor to see if there are some lessons learned that could be taken away from that operating model, as well as a number of others, but that one really stood out to us. So that's our presentation. Let me open it up for questions.
Let's go first. Ms. Williams.
I'm going to start where you finished, and why. Could you expand a little bit more on why we should monitor Howard County's investment in accountability, a little bit more specific other than?
Yeah, I mean, I think what it boils down to is performance in the schools. And where you see increases in graduation rate, increases in the test scores, and they use a different test scoring system, not the SOLs, but increases in their test scores, whether or not that starts to peak out. You've seen, I think, 3 years of data for that, monitoring if they can continue to push the envelope on improving those graduation rates through what effectively is data analysis and improved reporting through the school systems.
And thank you for the survey.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Ms. Jessie.
I was looking at the peer selection process, and I was curious about the demographics of, did you look at demographics, and did you look at the economic situation? For example, in Alexandria, I would see that Alexandria would have a higher staffing because they have more ESOL students. They have a higher percentage of ESOL students.
Yes.
English learners, and therefore, does that affect their staffing? That's my first question, is the peer selection process.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So this is one of our appendices slides. One of the things that you want to make sure that you're rationalizing against is when we're looking at, as an example, special education or English language learner students and trying to do the comparison against peer districts, we not only would look at them on a straight per 10,000 student basis, but we would also look at it on a per 1,000 student basis for those specialty areas like special education or English language learner. We found that even when adjusting for it based on the student populations, that the same findings held true.
For example, in Alexandria, where you have a higher staffing and the results have not been, when you were looking at accountability in Howard, how do you account for that?
I don't think there's a simple answer for how do you account for the difference in some of the performance. I think of all of the school districts, there was, I think Alexandria could learn some lessons from Prince William and from some of the other school districts, and potentially rotate towards pushing some more of their staff into the schools.
The other question, when you looked at the superintendent's staff, I noticed that and I need to understand to grasp this. You indicated more deputies. Are you saying more deputies in addition to the associate superintendents, or are you saying restructure?
Yes, I'm saying more in addition to the associate superintendents. Right now, there's an imbalance in terms of the span of control. So where we have a large number of associate superintendents reporting in to the deputy superintendent, being able to add leadership positions to oversee and create balance with the number of reports, but also the general gist of the responsibilities that they have.
So in other counties, can you specifically tell me where there are 3 or 4 deputies and also associates?
Yeah, that's a good question. So let me do this from memory. Montgomery County, Anne Arundel, Howard County. No, I'm sorry. Howard County has a little bit of a different structure as well. They're a little smaller, but certainly Montgomery, Anne Arundel, as well as Prince George's County, all utilize the 3 deputy structure to create balance in the reporting structure.
And then my last question is source of funding. Have you looked, did you look at, for example, we're pretty much dependent on the Board of Supervisors. And so the staffing perhaps has to do with the source of funding. Did you look at the difference between the sources of funding and where they were able to place more people at central office? Was there a higher, I guess, funding level or a
Yes.
different source of funding?
Yes. The slide that we show here is the operating budget per pupil. It's the metric that we'll use to compare not just across local districts, but to compare across nationwide, do some of the nationwide comparisons. And in comparison to the peer groups, Prince William, outside of Manassas, Park City, has the second lowest of the peer districts in terms of the operating budget per pupil.
Sorry, I do have another question.
Sure.
Where you have those high number of more persons at central office, how does that affect the salaries for teachers? For example, are the teachers also paid a higher salary and they have more central office people? Did you look at a comparison?
So we, knowing that there was already a compensation study underway, our focus was on the headcount and responsibilities as opposed to looking also at the compensation levels. So we left that up to the compensation study.
Thank you, Ms. Jessie. Ms. Ralston.
Thank you. I come from a different place on all of this. I thought, when I first ran for school board 2 years ago, I said, oh, they're overcrowded. I got here and looked. And when I saw that it was not overcrowded, with people, the space was so little, they got as many people in there as they could. But they were definitely underserved by adding other people to help out. So now, if you're going to take the deputy superintendent's position and divide that into three, I know.
No, they want to add.
Three, it would be three more people. Right?
Two more.
Two more people, I'm sorry, okay. Two more people. I know that sometimes one of the deputy superintendents is just in charge of finances. And then there's a layer of people underneath that do all of that. Is this what you're trying to tell us, that this may be of some help to us?
I think it would help.
Turnaround, especially with turnaround information. These people run all over trying to get it done fast enough.
Yes, I think that breaking up the leadership responsibilities would help in focus of the leadership. It would help certainly in the reporting, that's no question. But it also will help in driving initiatives. And so that's what you're really asking the leadership to do. You say, I want you to take responsibility for this school improvement program, or I want you to take responsibility for this set of academic programs, or I want you to make sure that the schools don't flood and that the train stays on the tracks.
Well, I thank you for saying that. We had that process where I come from, and it did work, and it worked well, but I didn't know what they were looking for. Now at least I know what they were supposed to be looking for. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Ralston. Anyone else? Mr. Deutsch.
Thank you. Number of questions kind of come to mind. First, in any situation, the sample size you choose to analyze says a lot about, or drives where you end up going. So why did we select the particular jurisdictions that we were comparing ourselves to?
Yeah, that's a great question. When you're one of the top 50 in the country, we started there with size, right? And but we also wanted to recognize the local aspects. And we wanted to provide a range, understand as we're doing the benchmark comparisons, is there a size differential when we're comparing some of the small districts to the very, very large, and Prince William sort of falls in the middle.
So it strikes me that geography played a heavy role.
Geography
and
certainly played a role.
It looks very heavily like the Washington metro area.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So why didn't we look at other localities, say outside of this, say Virginia Beach, some of the other large Virginia jurisdictions where they're sitting in a similar regulatory Virginia Dewey requirements and possibly similar similar medium-sized type jurisdictions? Why didn't we look at those as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. We did, and we initiated the outreach program with them, but getting response was a little challenging from some of the districts that we wanted to pull in.
Was there research that we could do just in terms of looking at their budgets and the FTEs to?
Yeah, where
some data analysis on
we could not get full data responses, we would try to go out and pull publicly available data to run the comparisons. We're able to do that in some of the other cases, but the budget book did not provide sufficient detail to do the level of analysis that we wanted to do.
So which localities outside of the DC metro area did we look at and couldn't get any information? Because it strikes me.
Specifically Virginia Beach.
Okay, was there anybody else besides? Because it strikes it's just a little odd that we could get the data for everybody in the DC metro, but couldn't get data for anybody else outside.
No, we looked specifically at Virginia Beach because of the size. You're talking about up until 10 years ago, one of the districts that was larger than Prince William, but because of the growth differential, now Prince William exceeds it in size. The drop off is pretty heavy after that within Virginia, and so when we outside of the Northern Virginia area, we started cutting off at that level.
Now, when I kind of took some of these FTE positions and averaged them based on some different breakdowns, the Maryland jurisdictions averaged to about 106.03 FTEs per, and Virginia is 100.25, which I think there's got to be. Well, did you look at the impact of just different state education and regulatory environments on what drives things? Because there's federal requirements, there's state requirements, and local requirements. So is there anything that comes into play from having different states' requirements?
Yeah, that's a good question. We started. We looked across the nation to see if there were other school districts we wanted to pull in. Going down to Hillsborough in Florida, do we want to pull in the largest school district in the country? There's a number of school districts in Georgia and California and Texas that also potentially came into play. But the regulatory environment and the interactions with the state counterparts was sufficiently different as to not make them as comparable.
Okay, so then looking at, and then you were saying, so Alexandria stands out as a huge difference in terms of the number of FTEs for really everybody else on the chart, and particularly everybody else in Virginia. What again was driving that? And you said that part of it was just them not pushing staff out to the schools, and where you could see they might need to actually reduce their central office staff, in your opinion.
I think they could take a look at other ways to allocate the staff.
Okay. So then if we look at the Virginia localities minus Alexandria, we're sitting at 94.52 FTEs per, and then we're actually sitting about 2 FTE positions above it in terms of comparable averages. And sorry, these are all averages. I'm running on Excel right here.
Okay. So
yeah, sorry, yeah, I'm just taking your data and looking at it. So I guess what creates that perfect number then? Because if I compare ourselves to the average of the other Virginia localities we looked at, minus Alexandria, we're doing better than all of them. So what says this is the perfect bar and here's where you need to be?
Yeah, I think there's no simple answer, right? There's no simple answer that says this is the right number of FTE. I think when we look across that's why we also looked at responsibilities. How much are your staff able to do with the FTEs that they have in-house, and how does that compare? I think and I don't have the numbers, nor am I a wizard enough to figure out, exactly what would happen if some of the other districts in transportation were not outsourcing the function, right? Which has a pretty significant impact on the staffing levels and the staffing numbers. Or what would happen if some of the facilities the smaller districts that outsource facilities almost entirely were not doing that. I think some of those impacts would raise the numbers. I also think if you look broadly across the responsibilities at Prince William, if I were to do a count of total responsibilities, there would be significantly more and substantial functions that are taken on here that I think speak to some of the efficiencies here.
Fair enough. Now, you mentioned one of the jurisdictions outsourcing transportation. Can you speak to why they did that and if there are any cost savings associated with it, or if it was more costly to do it, or what's the analysis on the
Yeah, there were
pros and
two
cons
that had entirely outsourced the function. One was more expensive and one was less. So they always tell me 3 data points is what you want. One is happenstance, twice is coincidence, and 3 times is a trend. And so having one above and one below, I don't really have a good answer for whether or not it's more or less efficient.
Was there any thought or reason for why one increased the cost and one decreased, or just not enough data to come to anything?
I don't think there was enough data to make that determination. There was one group who had just outsourced the special education function. Part of that is the reason, is the higher cost of that as a transportation function. Didn't have a good sense of whether or not that drove efficiencies as well.
Were there any other departments that you found were outsourced by different divisions?
But primarily it was transportation and facilities for the most part, and I think very broadly speaking, information technology is always one of those areas where there's some level of outsourcing just because the experience that you need changes so dynamically. So I think everyone does a little bit there. But for the most part, we saw that things were not outsourced in other functions.
How do we compare with other localities in terms of outsourcing IT? Or do we have more in-house compared to other people, or?
You're in line with peers in terms of the outsourcing. There's not a significant differentiator, I think, in that function. It really is. It's very dynamic. So, when you're undergoing a big implementation, with the current implementation that is being undertaken now, you'll see increases in IT outsourcing, and then it'll subside. And that's important because you want that drives efficiency. You don't want to hire up all of these staff and then have them turn idle when the implementation is over. And so very often there's a dynamic fluctuation in the outsourcing depending on needs.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deutsch. Anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ms. Satterwhite.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know, last year this got approved as part of our extra funds from 2016. It was approved part of the budget process. And I appreciate the questions Mr. Deutsch asked because he asked some of the things I was thinking about also. I think I expected more justification as to why we needed more positions. And you've talked about more work in certain areas. I think I expected just more detail. You've given us a lot more detail explaining it, and you say this is an executive summary. I expected more product. I expected more to read, more to absorb. And I think that's where I'm disappointed in this, because a lot of what we've seen in the report, we've seen in WABE. And we've studied it, and our staff's presented it. And so I just expected a lot more with the $250,000 study. So I've had some problems with that. And what I wanted to see, too, is, okay, what's the justification for adding more staff for student academic needs? What are the specific needs that back up those recommendations of how those are going to help our students? And I just haven't seen enough of that from this report, and that's frustrating to me. But I do appreciate the answers to Mr. Deutsch's questions and some of the other questions, because those are some of the things that I had questions about also. Thank you for your time tonight.
I do want to mention that this is the public presentation, and we have a much more substantial report that's going through final checks that will be available for review. And
I greatly appreciate that. About when do we anticipate getting the final report?
So there, we'll have it back into the central office's hands, probably end of this week, beginning of next week.
Okay.
And then if there's any sort of final checks from them, and then we'll send it over.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Got a couple people wanting to go second time around. Before we do that, Mr. Brand, Mr. Welk. Okay. Ms. Jessie.
I wanted to ask if you agreed with Mr. Wilkes, not Mr. Wilkes, Mr. Deutsch, when he said that the Alexandria piece, does that Alexandria piece really skew the data? Because that's the one that's outstanding?
It will push the data up, clearly, if it's larger, but you're also estimating that over 8 other school districts. So the effect is muted because of the number of peer comparisons that we have.
And the other question is, I know that Alexandria was one of those schools that was, because of low performance, was pretty much unaccredited and had a lot of state intervention. And I'm wondering if is this staffing, did you get any trend data on the Alexandria data that you have here? Is this the data as of this year, or is this data that you're giving us for 1 year, or is it trend data?
This is data for 1 year.
For 1 year? So Alexandria looked very different, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm just wondering about that. And like Ms. Satterwhite, I guess, for example, when you say we need to really reorganize like Howard County, not like Howard County, and you gave an example of Howard County, I would expect, and maybe perhaps you have that you would have an organizational chart that would outline how Howard County looks, and also comparison of the cost for that different organizational structure as it relates to teacher salaries. And the reason I say that is because we have teachers who are underpaid, and I'm just concerned that we're saying that we need more at Central when we're really concerned about teachers. The other aspect of this is that I would like to see is the funding source or revenue sources for these schools that have more staffing. I'm not opposed to more staffing. I just need to have perhaps a little bit more justification. You said that there were, when you talk to people who were perhaps had more staff, that there were justification statements, but in this executive summary, I don't have an outline in writing of those reports. So I guess like Ms. Satterwhite, I would like to see more information, and how do we get access to that?
Sure. When you receive the final report, we have a detailed review of each of the departments. Obviously the summary level, and within each of the departments, we look at the organizational structure, various organizational structures from across the other districts. We look at staffing, obviously. We took a look at the responsibilities, some of the key challenges that they experience. We took a look at the technologies that are being used. So are there ways to better leverage technology to drive some efficiency? And we took a look at responsibilities. And then we did those comparisons on an office-by-office basis for staffing and doing some of the comparisons. So you'll see benchmarking throughout that as well.
I think it's good information as we seek additional funding from the Board of Supervisors, but I think we just need more in-depth analysis.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jessie. Ms. Williams?
Thank you. Personally, I wish I could just take your summary and send it to the Board of County Supervisors, because I've been saying this for the past 3 years, and this to me is the proof in the pudding. I am anticipating looking at the full report, but I'm very pleased by what you have presented to us this evening. It's nice and short and concise, and does mention several times that the reasoning for our staffing, to up our staffing, is basically, from what I understand you saying, is that our staff currently does more work than their peer counterparts in the jurisdictions that were looked at in the survey. Yep. Correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, and there are obviously differences because each county is funded differently by tax rates or wherever they get their sources of revenue from. So that's understandable. I was one of the people who had asked for this, and I'm very pleased by it because it is something that we hear from the public and within the school community about the amount of workload our administrative staff has versus their peers. And I think that's important, especially when it comes down to how you manage the rest of the school system, even the rest of our employees, teachers, janitorial staff, busing, everyone included is under that. So I think that it's a direct effect of, you know, if our central office staff is overworked, I'm sure that impacts the remaining staff that they're supervising or in charge of. So I appreciate this, and I'm looking forward to seeing that more detailed report. Thank you again for this presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Anyone else? Mr. Deutsch.
Question. Which division was it again that had the 3 deputy superintendents for the organizational structure?
So Montgomery, Anne Arundel, and Prince George's all maintain the 3 deputy structure in their organizational structures.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Now moving on to superintendent's time. Item 17.01. Dr. Waltz.
Thank you, Chairman Sawyers, members of the board. As we move into March, I remind our parents and staff that this is Brain Injury Awareness Month. Prince William County Public Schools is a leader in concussion awareness training. Our model of mandatory parent and athletic training in this area has been implemented in many other school divisions across the state. There is a video entitled Chloe's Story about the experience of one of our own student athletes that is incorporated in our concussion training. You can watch this compelling video on PWCS YouTube site. As a reminder to our high school students who are looking for summer jobs, our school division will hold 2 job fairs. The first on Tuesday, March 7th at Osborne Park High School, and the second on Thursday, March 9th at Garfield High School. Students must complete an online application before the job fair and bring a copy of that application with them. Visit the Human Resources webpage at pwcs.edu for more information. Congratulations to recipients of the 2017 Human Rights Awards presented by the Prince William Human Rights Commission. These individuals were honored for their unique contributions to human and civil rights. Maria Burgos, Supervisor of Global Learning and Culturally Responsive Instruction, Carolyn Custer, Director of Student Services, and Dr. George Hampton, who last year was one of our middle schools named schools. The youth winner was Norman Jones III, a senior at Stonewall Jackson High School. A recent press release from the Virginia Department of Education applauded the news that 28.3% of state's graduating seniors earned a qualifying score of 3.0 or higher on at least one AP examination. That puts Virginia students ahead of national results and all but a few states. But our students did even better. In Prince William County, we did better than the state and national averages. Remember, Virginia's number was 28.3. Among PWCS students, 30.2 got at least one AP qualifying score, ahead of all but 2 states in the nation. When you count the Cambridge and IB courses that many of our advanced students take instead of AP, the number rises to 35.2%. That puts our students among the very best in the country. And now for a couple of final items. Since props are becoming ever more prevalent at school board meetings, I thought I'd better get with the program. Got this very nice mug from the Romeo and Juliet cast. And I had the pleasure of seeing that with board member Satterwhite, and she's going to talk more about it. But the Osborne Park students did a fantastic job, and she'll give you more details on that. And then finally, since I'm sitting next to our fashion plate of the school board, Justin Wilk, and his many, many glasses, I wanted to show you my Kilby transition glasses. Hopefully my 8th grade daughter is not watching because she finds this very embarrassing. So every student and every adult at Kilby last week transitioned to their beautiful, beautiful new building. And it was really exciting to be over there with those students and watch them. They each carried their books and everything. Problem is I can't read with these. So, so the students carried their books and supplies and materials over to their new school on February 17th, very exciting day. I picked up my daughter after school and put the glasses on the same day. She got in the car and she said, "Why are you wearing those glasses?" And I said, because all the kids at Kilby were wearing them. "Well, you shouldn't be wearing them here." I said, "Well, I don't care what people think. They're here." And she said, "Well, I do." So anyway, it was a lot of fun. And it's a bright future as they walk from their old school to their new. And here's something really important. Remember, we've got an East Side school, brand spanking new, state-of-the-art. And the program capacity is moving from 333 permanent seats to 646. So we're increasing 313 permanent seats in an Eastern school. Beautiful, beautiful facility. And I have a very short video to end my comments. If you'd roll the video, please. What grade are you in?
Right now, we're bringing over 507 students, and we anticipate around 700 next year. My hope is that children will feel like that they have the best there is to offer facility-wise. In the old Kilby, we have 3 classrooms per grade level, and in this building, we have 6 per grade level, and we have a science lab, an art room, all kinds of resource rooms, teacher planning rooms, conference rooms, story room, activity room. This is probably at least 2 to 3 times bigger than our building next door. We have a beautiful playground for the children, plus we have lots of space to play on the basketball court and a field below for soccer. Just the environment is so positive. Hopefully a day they'll remember.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Waltz. I don't want Ms. Satterwhite to get mad at me for starting with her 3 weeks in a row, so we will start to my far right with Mr. Wilk.
I have a joke, but I'm not going to say it. I'll be nice to Dr. Waltz tonight.
Thank you
Yeah.
for a change.
Yes. Busy. I always give these updates, what I've been doing the last 2 weeks. I like to be president in my schools as much as I can and be an advocate for them. So a couple events that have happened. The last 2 weeks, I've been lucky and fortunate to go to 2 home Potomac basketball games. Repeated 5A regional champions. So, and a couple, I think they have a game, Mickey, one more this. They play tomorrow down in Hampton. Can't go to that one. So awesome, great season so far. Good things happening there. Hopefully they go to the state championships next Saturday. Not this, but next. And that would be good. That would be down in Richmond. Other things, went to the Potomac NJROTC Ball last Friday. Great event. That was at the Dale City VFW Hall. Great to be there and see such a great event. Was able to go to Ashland Science Fair. Congratulations to Mr. Rogers and Ms. Young for putting that event on. Excuse me. With props, I went to Mary Williams and did their Kind Club breakfast. So this is like a little scarf. You know, we could. Oh, you know what we're gonna do? You know. And the glasses. Just put him on that Colgan piano. We got Elton John here, so. Yeah, I couldn't hold it. Anyways, so those are actually nice, kind blankets, and we're gonna get those distributed in the community. Hopefully, well, if it gets cold anymore, but otherwise, they're will be used for next year. Also went to Potomac Middle School, walked around, visited with teachers in classrooms. I love teachers that I just kind of pop in and they're just like, oh, okay, they go with it. So good getting to watch some classes and stuff. Attended, of course, Forest Park's You Can't Take It With You, put on by Laura Britton and the wonderful Lori Spitzer-Wilk. Great shows, 4 in a row, great performances. Visited, I gotta say that right? No, it was actually a really good show. Dumfries Elementary, visited there, had a great time talking with their teachers and staff. I love Dumfries because principals just like, here you go, here's a key, have fun, go in, visit kids, talk to the teachers. And so get to go in and visit and talk about the good things that are happening there. Went to Triangle after that and had a good talk with the principal and the teams there. Finally, I did go to Potomac High School and visited a couple of their classrooms. That's where I went into the ROTC program, and they invited me to the ball. So that was really cool to actually get there. Along with athletics, I want to stress that there's also good things happening in the competitive fields in the academics. They had a student make the state championships in the VEX robotics tournament. They also had one student make the forensics regionals. So a lot of great things happening. Busy 2 weeks there. Couple upcoming events Miss Ralston and I are finalizing. These town hall things are becoming like the flavor, like this is like the thing, right? So we're gonna have a joint town hall with the Neabsco and the Potomac District. That's gonna be finalized. We're looking at next Thursday night. Stay tuned. And I'm also doing a student Forest Park town hall on Tuesday night next week. That'll be interesting. I'm sure snow days will be a topic. Shocking. So anyways, thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Wilk. And when you compliment your wife's programs, you have to read the conflict of interest statement. Just so you know, you have to read that out loud. Thank you. Mr. Deutsch.
Thank you very much. I will try to be brief, and maybe briefer than Justin. But budget season is upon us, and we had a good budget work session last week, I believe, or the week before, between this last board meeting and this one. And we had a good time going over kind of overviews for different departments. But we just finally got the budget books on Friday, and we finally have the details for the different budgets. And I think there's a lot of things that different people want to see if we can address in the budget. We heard from a number of teachers about things we want addressed. We've just heard here about different additional positions. There's other programmatic concerns. So I really hope that before markup, we actually have another work session where we really can go over every bit of the budget and really talk through it. On the subject of town halls, the beginning of next week, I am having a forum, shall we say, with all of the SAC heads and the PTO heads of the schools in Coles District to really hear from them what's going on in the schools, what would be important as far as budgetary concerns, other things to address in the schools as we are right in the middle of budget season, and would definitely appreciate if any of them would be more than happy to come. Would love to be able to sit down and talk, hear feedback. One other really big event is this Saturday is Hilton High School has their annual Sizzle Conference. It's a big cultural and language studies conference where they can really showcase the things that they've been doing that year. It's an exciting time with great food, an exciting keynote speaker, a lot of breakout sessions that are both interactive and informative. So people should definitely come on out, and it's going to be a great time.
Thank you, Mr. Deutsch. Ms. Ralston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see. Today, Bevel Middle School, all sixth graders had an opportunity to go to the African American Museum in Washington, D.C. Every last one of the sixth graders, and that was over 370. And there are people to be thanked. So Mr. Carney and Ms. Smith, and sometimes you have people here that you just don't know how good they can be. So we have great staff because they pitch in too. Let's see. Okay, I did that. Oh, Garfield Soul Food last week. It was, you have to come to Garfield when they do their soul luncheon. It's very good. So next year, I know Lily will probably put it out earlier.
What?
The luncheon.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm going to follow up. I'm going to give Mickey's dinner contribution.
Okay. Okay. I have about 3 requests, Mr. Chairman. One is that board members only have 4 minutes to speak on a subject, and they get 2 go-arounds on it. So I'd like to add that. And that the school board meetings end by 11, because we're going to have to start bringing blankets and pillows if we stay out to 2 any longer. So, and then if by chance we don't finish by 11, we just recess and pick it back up the following week a half hour before. So that's pretty good. So 5:30 on the next following Wednesday, with more discussion on that item too. That members can place no more than 2 items on the agenda, which will also help everything that I've just said. Well, that's part of the problem. So those are my 3 things that I'd like to have discussion on. I thank everybody. I want everybody to have a good weekend. And teachers, get some rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ralston. Ms. Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just, speaking of all that food, made me think about Freedom in their Bistro Cafe, and I haven't mentioned them this year, and I'm so sorry about that, because the service and food is outstanding, and this is the first year being on the board that I've missed probably every football, basketball. I haven't been to anything, which is, as we know, sports is not my my most highlighted event is not sporting, but I do miss going to those and seeing that bistro bus out there. So I just wanted to mention that while it was on my mind, and we're talking about food, because I know the annual food show is coming up as well in March. It's always my favorite time of year when it's Dr. Seuss's birthday, because I love Dr. Seuss and I love all the reading that goes on with it. And I just wanted to share again, every year I do some sort of something Dr. Seuss related. So my quote for this year is in alignment with reading, because I've been spending a lot of time with students who every time I say, hey, have you read today? I get, oh my God, I read at school. Why do I have to read again? And I thought, here's an appropriate quote for that. The more you read, the more things you'll know, the more you'll learn, the more places you'll go, which is something that I preach all the time in my house about providing yourself with options. And one of the best things about reading is once it's in there, it's really hard to get out. So the more information you put in, the better informed you are, the better informed decisions you can make, and the more options you'll be able to provide for yourself as you grow and experience this journey called life. So I just wanted to say that, and just thank all of the teachers who came and presented this evening on step and salary increases. I know that Prince William, one of the things that I'm so prideful about is that we do offer our staff either a step or a salary increase every year, and we've only missed one in the past 10 years. And that's something that, in addition to always fighting for increases for teachers, that we should highlight ourselves and give ourselves a good pat on the back on, because I know that all of our jurisdictions have not been able to do that. And while it's never enough, it's something that we should not lose sight of. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Brand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my favorite time of the year as a devoted college basketball fan. It is March Madness. Well, it's coming up. We'll definitely have a little madness around this board when it comes to our schedules over the next month as we work to finalize the budget by March 15th, and we will eventually be presenting this budget to the Board of Supervisors on March 28th. On a side note, for those college hoops fans, my beloved George Mason Patriots did win their 19th game of the season tonight, 63-62 over Duquesne. I have to give a little high fives to my fellow Mason grads. We'll do that very quickly. Allison, pay attention. Okay, moving on. We had this plan, and she forgot already. All right. All right, I'd like to invite Brentsville and Gainesville District residents to next Tuesday's Town Hall, which I will be co-hosting with Ms. Satterwhite of the Gainesville District. And as Mr. Wilkes said, town halls are very popular right now. This town hall will take place at Bull Run Middle School on Tuesday, March 7th at 7 p.m. We'll be focused on the budget, of course. That's the main topic of the month. But I'm sure we'll be open to taking questions on many other topics as well. So please come if you can. I'd like to invite current and definitely future parents of Patriot, Stonewall Jackson, and Battlefield High Schools to attend the community meeting, which will be held on Thursday, March 9th at Gainesville Middle School, related to the 13th high school. It's going to focus on the newest proposed site for that school, which came out this week. And as you all know, or have heard many, many times, lucky number 13 is scheduled to open in the fall of 2021. I would like to acknowledge the Piney Branch Elementary and Gainesville Middle School communities who rose up in charity this week to help a family actually in my neighborhood whose home was heavily damaged by a massive fire last week. Too often we witness the use of social media for negative things. In this situation, I and many others definitely saw the positive of how social media could be harnessed for something good in terms of the donations that came in for that family. So I want to give best wishes to this Cardinal and Hawk family as they rebuild and eventually return to our community. I want to thank the teachers for coming tonight. As a former teacher in Prince William County Schools, I definitely hear what you're saying. Spent 7 fine years as a teacher at Woodbridge Senior High School from '99 to 2006. I'm also former PWCS, so I have that experience as well. And like you, and like many of you, I did have to work a second job, and many times in order to help make ends meet. I was a summer school teacher, I think, for every year but one of my teaching years. And so summer school's quite an experience. It's 6 weeks, 5 hours a day, with the same group of students, and you learn to love each other and hate each other a little bit each day. And but overall, it's a positive experience, just to be in with those kids and having that experience. I did get one summer off. The summer after my daughter was born, I got to be daddy daycare for one summer. So I worked, but different type of work. So thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate what you're saying, and we'll definitely consider your voices and what you said tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Ms. Satterwhite.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Mr. Brand said, we are co-hosting a town hall at Bull Run Middle School at 7 p.m. Just wanted to repeat that so everybody has the information. It's next Tuesday night. Look forward to seeing everybody there. I have the pleasure of attending at Mountain View Elementary School over a week ago the African Americans in STEM Fair. It was an absolutely amazing experience. Our students and families took part in seeing student presentations. It was set up like a science fair where students did their research on African Americans who've contributed to STEM in our country. The students had all of their information displayed on their science fair type backboards. Some of the students dressed up, and all the parents, those who were visiting, got to tour around and talk to the students as they explained their research. And it was an absolutely amazing event. Everyone there learned so much from the kids. And I just want to commend Mrs. Harrison and all of her staff, all of the community members who supported the event. It was absolutely incredible, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you to them for the invitation at Mountain View. Osborne Park High School, we had an absolutely amazing play that Dr. Waltz mentioned. I have a playbill from Romeo and Juliet Redo. It was the most incredible theatrical production I've been to, and I've been to quite a few. It was based on the play Romeo and Juliet. It was adapted and edited for the students to perform in Miss Hope Langton's class and students in Miss Lydia Stewart's 6th period English class. It was an all-star cast of students and student assistants from the ID program, and they were assisted by art students, sound and lighting students from the theater production class, musical selections provided by the band, ushers provided by the employee program. So this is truly a school effort. And as they put in the playbill, ordinary people doing outstanding things together. And I have never seen such a touching performance before. I want to thank all of the students for the incredible job they did in presenting their play. I want to thank them for the smiles that they all had at the very end of the performance as they were on stage and they were celebrating in the final band and party-goer scene. And it was a moment that, it was a day I will never forget. And thank you, Mr. Beach, for the invitation, and Mrs. Hope Langton for the invitation. It was truly fantastic. So thank you for what you're doing for our students at Osborne Park High School. Also had the pleasure of attending at Battlefield High School's Principals Advisory Council meeting, and of course, we were discussing budget because it's that time of year. Also stopped by the Alternative Education School naming meeting. I'm so sorry I was only there for a few minutes, but you were my second stop of 3 that night. But I was able to hear a lot of the good information, so thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. Really interested in what you're talking about with your students and their priorities for what the name needs to be for the next school. I want to tell everybody that this Friday night at Lake Braddock High School, our Battlefield High School girls basketball team will be competing in the state tournament at 5:30 p.m. They'll be playing against the Colonial Forge Eagles, so everybody come out and support our Battlefield Lady Bobcats. I want to congratulate our 3 state champions in wrestling, and no, I don't have all the specifics, but I want to congratulate Zach Freit, Brandon Wittenberg, and River Curtis on becoming state champions in wrestling. We have some other athletes who've done amazing things at the state level, and I'll get the compilation and bring those to the next meeting. And thank you for the time. Have a great week.
Thank you, Ms. Satterwhite. And Vice Chairman Jesse.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the town of Dumfries for inviting me, along with several other individuals, Eugene Brown and Cozy Bailey, to speak at their Black History Month celebrations, an annual event that happens in downtown Dumfries. And I also want to thank Dumfries Elementary because the parents and kids showed up that morning and it filled up the room, and they did a wonderful job. So thank you very, very much. I also visited Rockledge, and I want to thank the PTA there because they bought some playground equipment, and the kids were there to dedicate that equipment, and Mrs. Anderson came for that ribbon cutting ceremony. The Garfield Luncheon, it was very good. This is an annual event, and people come back like Paulette Jones, who has been just been in that school forever. Mr. Mulgrew brought a dish. I think it was, did he leave the room because he knew I was going to talk about his dish? Yes. It was cooked, personally baked at his house by him. Not really. It was so good we forgot the name of it. But I'm sorry, but Dr. Saki makes a beautiful, his lamb is just, and it's just a loving environment. My kids went to Garfield, and so I've attended this event for several years, and I really had a good time there. Also, Hampton Middle, we had talked about it earlier, and I had been procrastinating about it, but did go there and taught 2 classes, 2 seventh grade classes. It was history from 1865 to present, which is part of the curriculum. And Dr. Hampton assisted me in his presentation. And of course, we talked about being a part of the whole civil rights movement, and I was a part of that. And interestingly enough, I don't think Dr. Hampton realized until after the school was named after him, that his brother, who took him in from New Jersey, where he was a part of a gang, a little gang, they looked like they were 8 years old, but he saved him from the 7-year-old gang and brought him to North Carolina. And his brother was a doctor, and it's so ironic that his brother was on the school board, had a housing project named after him, and a park, and also had a school named in his honor. So it's just very interesting how that really played out. And the kids were really happy to see him, and he shared his life. I always tell you guys that I have these poverty stories, and my husband said, I give up, you were the poorest. You win that. But Dr. Hampton presented and told the class that he thinks he was poorer than us. So Dr. Hampton was the poorest, and we're going to give him that badge of honor. But I just want to thank the school and for allowing me to do that. And I will have a town hall meeting. There will be town halls everywhere, banners. My town hall will be on March 7th, and it will be at Old Bridge. And it's the budget, but we're also going to talk about concerns for overcrowding in that Lake Ridge area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miss Jessie, and I'll wrap it up here. Miss Williams handed me a note and said I must read it, and she said that she would announce, she forgot to announce her town hall on Monday, which is at Fred Lynn from 7 to 9. Yeah, so she has Fred Lynn on Monday from 7 to 9. And then I will continue on that trend since we're on the town hall. I already had one, which was in the Lake Ridge community, and I thank them for hosting that. We had Chick-fil-A. I'm just going to say you have to step it up, board members. We had some nuggets there, so have time to step it up a little bit. But then I have another one coming on March 3rd at Mullen Elementary School. Not going to lie, tried to go for lower hanging fruit. Went for, I think, Miss Urban, we tried 3 dates at Glenkirk Elementary School so I could walk to it. None of them worked with the calendar. Then we tried Gainesville Middle. That didn't work as well, scheduling wise. So we ended up at Mullen Elementary School, which is, of course, in the Gainesville district, but right on the line of the Brentsville district as well. So that's kind of my Gainesville, Brentsville, Western Coles town hall. And then I have a one at Forest Park High School. Mr. Wilk was gracious enough to let me cross Hoadley down his way and come in Potomac. So we have one at Forest Park on the 6th as well. So that's kind of that end of that side of the county as well. So hopefully with the 3 town halls that in the chairman's seat, I can get out and bounce around. Very interesting, very lively. It was very good conversation, very good questions. Was very happy with the first town hall. Obviously recess was part of that as well. So that is a hot topic amongst the youngsters in the Lake Ridge community as well. So with that, the budget season is always I don't even want to say contentious. It's always passionate. It's always people. It's the time where everybody gets to kind of pull on their end of the rope and try to get as much for their cause as they possibly can. And I certainly appreciate that. When it comes to teacher step increases, I think I agreed with every single person that walked up here and talked about it. It's something that needs to be a regular thing in our school system. I hope we can eventually get to the point where it's going to be in there every year ahead of time. So we're making progress. We protected it last year throughout budget cuts, and so hopefully we can still make some progress for it this year. But I'm on the side of step increases, and just for the record, I will be next year and the year after that as well. So I think they're that important to the stability of the people that are on the step scale in our system. It's just something that they need to count on in order to stabilize our communities a little better. So very good meeting. I appreciate everyone's input. I look forward to the markup session that we have coming up next week, I believe a week from today, and we can continue to look at the budget. I encourage the board members as well. I know we just got a little packet handed to us, but remember your questions can be answered ahead of time. In fact, I would suggest it, being that budget questions aren't easy to answer on the spot, and give the superintendent and his staff a little time to answer those. So with that, and no further business before this board, this meeting is adjourned.